I am God. I am Enoch. These are my fists. If I want to knock on a door, I use either my right hand or my left hand. Now, if you look closely at my hand, you might notice that there's a E shape there. Yeah? You see that? The letter E? Or, if I could do it that way, we get like a... Yeah. So, Enoch. Yeah. See, he's a very interesting part of the puzzle, Enoch. People love to talk about those books that came from Ethiopia. They're called the Book of the Watchers. It's nonsense. I mean, it's rubbish. But people like to write a lot of rubbish, don't they? Yeah, they do. So interestingly, Enoch, the Enoch that most people think of is the Enoch who is the seventh from Adam. So he's the seventh son from Adam. So that's a very interesting number, because the number 7 in the tarot deck is the Chariot card. So if I were to look at the major arcana of the Rider-Waite tarot deck, which is the most common tarot deck, that is the Chariot card. And what did it say about Enoch? Well, it said I need my Bible. Okay. Genesis. What is it? Chapter. Excuse me. Ooh. So, yeah. Chapter 5. So Genesis chapter 5. Verse 18. When Jared had lived 162 years, he became the father of Enoch. After he became the father of Enoch, Jared lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Jared lived a total of 962 years, and then he died. When Enoch had lived 65 years, he became the father of Methuselah. After he became the father of Methuselah, Enoch walked faithfully with God 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enoch lived a total of 365 years. Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more, because God took him away. So, people speculate about what happened to Enoch. It says that God took him away. It said he walked with God faithfully and God took him away. Obviously, different translations say different things. And like I said, he was the seventh from Adam, and the Chariot card is in the tarot deck. The Chariot card is the seventh of the major arcana, which is interesting because it seems that because people interpret, Enoch was taken up to heaven by God. He didn't, they think, okay, he didn't experience death. He just went up to heaven. And, the thing is, well, if you know the story about Elijah, he went up to heaven in a chariot of fire. So, yeah, the chariot. It's an interesting card. I should also mention that Enoch is also the name of the son of Cain. Cain, you see what happened when Cain murdered Abel. He was, well, I'll read it to you, okay? So, chapter 4, let me see, chapter 4, verse 10. The Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." But the Lord said to him, "Not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over." Then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Now it's interesting because the land of Nod, so Nod is spelled N-O-D. It's an interesting word, nod, isn't it? Nod. It means yes. It's a signal for yes. And, nod is the reverse of don, D-O-N. I just thought that was interesting, really. So, what does it say here? Cain made love to his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Cain was then building a city, and he named it after his son Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad was the father of Mehujael, and Mehujael was the father of Methushael, and Methushael was the father of Lamech. So, yeah. So, yeah, it also says here, down here, it says, Seth also had a son. So Seth had a son, and he named him Enosh, which is spelled E-N-O-S-H. So that would make him second from Adam. Yeah, so he was second from Adam. Okay, it would seem, yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. So, the thing about Enoch is, well, there's so much magic associated with Enoch. I mean, there's something called Enochian magic, and I don't know a lot about Enochian magic, but there is a lot of it, and it's So there was a guy called John Dee, and he lived, I think it was in the 1500s or something like that. And he was like an advisor to, was it Elizabeth the First? Is that right? Let me have a look. Elizabeth the First. Yeah. So it must have been, yeah. So she, cause, yeah. So John Dee, he was like an advisor. He was like he was a magician advisor for Queen Elizabeth the First, and he has all this crazy magic. You know, he claimed to, you know, communicate with angels, and, you know, well, evil spirits. Yeah, he was in contact with evil spirits. And he was doing all sorts of crazy, weird magic. And lots of people like to use it for their magic rituals. I mean, if you want to know what it is, just have a look on the internet, you know, or have a look on YouTube. There's loads of videos about Enochian magic. But, you know, what does this all connect with? Because the thing is, well, Enoch, the son of Jared. So Jared is an interesting name, isn't it? Because Jared, you know, there's a man called Jared Kushner who's married to Ivanka Trump, who's the daughter of Donald Trump. You know, he's a famous Jewish guy. Yeah, and then there's Jared Leto. You know, he was in that film Requiem for a Dream and Morbius, and he played the Joker. He was the worst Joker ever, apparently. Yeah, he was in, what was it, Suicide Squad, whatever it's called. Yeah, I never watched any of that. That stuff never interested me. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah. Anyway. So this is the thing, you know, because there are lots of verses in the New Testament. You know, Jesus said, you know, knock and the door will be opened. You know, ask and ye shall receive. Knock and the door will be opened. You know, and that's the thing, right? Because obviously languages have changed. You know, how did, you know, in Aramaic or Greek or Hebrew, you know, how would you say knock? You know, to knock on a door. You know, but what is it now in English? What does it, you know, knock knock? Oh, it's Enoch. It's Enoch. Let me in. Yeah. But this is the thing, you know. Jesus said, and I was Jesus. I said, you know, I stand at the door and I knock. And I'm waiting for people to open the door to me. Yeah, but no one wants to open the door to me. You understand? And I'm just telling you who I am. I'm Enoch. Yeah? Or you could say I'm 3 knock. I'm 3 knock. Or I'm, you know, I'm Enoch. Yeah. How's that for some Enochian magic? Easy peasy. But, you know, that's really fascinating, right? Because, you know, I told you about John Dee. So he was the one who, he started all this Enochian magic stuff. It was all like, he was apparently, he was communicating with evil spirits, and he was putting together all this, he was sort of deciphering some Enochian language and magic spells and names, and he claimed to have 7 names of God. Just all these just weird sounding names. It's all witchcraft. That's all it is. Witchcraft. Spell work. But it's really interesting because people say it's powerful magic. They say it's powerful magic, and well, who was John D. Rockefeller? Yeah, he's considered one of the most rich. He was one of the richest businessmen who ever lived. John D. Rockefeller. Very influential because of how powerful and how much money he had. John D., which stands for Davis, I think. Yeah, I think it's Davis. Yeah, I think so. Let me have a quick look. Yeah, anyways, whatever. John D. Rockefeller. Okay. So, yeah. A lot of people, they like to talk about, the Book of Watchers, and they think, oh, it's fascinating and blah, blah, blah. It talks about the Nephilim and the blah, 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 the giants and all that rubbish. The fact is, when it talks about the Nephilim in the Book of Genesis, before the flood, it talks about the sons of God. I've already explained it. It's basically a discrete way of saying that people were participating in sodomy. I've explained it. People were doing sex magic. And that's why I got angry at them. Because they were just doing the same thing that Adam did. They were doing the same thing Adam did. And they were making me angry. I was very unhappy with them. Yeah. Anyways. Show. Sorry. Yeah, so that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because obviously Enoch lived for 365 years, according to the record in the Book of Genesis. So, obviously we have 365-day years now, don't we? That's most years it's 365 days long, unless it's a leap year. Which is quite interesting, really, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. This is kind of my last video. I talked about the 24 elders and how the 24 elders think I was born yesterday. And I explained that the 24 elders means, people treat me like they treat me like I was born the day well, yeah, I should have explained that a little bit better, because the world turns its back to me, and the world pretends that I'm the daylight shining out of their ass, because they pretend that I was born yesterday, the day they act as if I was born one day after them. Wait, does that make sense? No. Does that make sense? Or is it the other way around? They think that I'm born a day before them. Yeah, something like that. But basically, the world treats me like I was born yesterday. That I'm an idiot, and that that's really what the 24 Elders thing is about. It's people who treat me like I was born yesterday. I haven't been to sleep for a while. Yeah, no, I mean, if it's just 24 elders, well, if they're 24 hours older than me, then that means that I would be born one day after them. I mean, that could be interpreted in lots of different ways. Do you know what I mean? If they think I've only been alive for one day, 24 hours, then they'd be like, oh, well, you were born yesterday. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's the thing. That's basically what it's about. People treating me like I was born yesterday. That's why people won't acknowledge me, because they would rather have their throne in heaven by denying me. When I knock on the door, they're like, we don't know who you are. Who are you? You don't belong up here, God. And I'm like, I'm Enoch. Let me in. Well, I'm God. So what does it say here about Enoch? Enoch walked faithfully with God. Well, here's my Enoch, yeah? Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more, because God took him away. Took him away. Well, that's the thing, right? Go to heaven, knock on the door. Yeah, I took my Enoch with me. Took it, yeah. Took him away. Knock, knock. Yeah, so when I lived at my old address in Brighton, I used to live at flat 24 Albion House. And people would come round to my door and knock, knock. Hello, Grant, let me in. So yeah, I mean, that's other magic that is obviously associated with the 24 elders and Enoch, because, well, you know, the English language has changed, so anyone can just go around and knock, 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 knock. You know, because the E is on the hand, right? It's got the E or it's the 3, you know, whether you can say it's that way or it's backwards, right? It doesn't really matter. It's still the same shape. And people knock, knock, knock. And that's a spell, that's a magic spell that happens when people do that. But obviously, I'm explaining I am Enoch. I am God. The people who thought I was born yesterday are in a lot of trouble. I mean, the 24 elders thing, I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, you could say, you know, I could look at it both ways. You know, if there are 24 elders, I could say, well, yeah, they were born yesterday because they're fucking stupid. You know, I'm God. I told them I'm God, and they're like, we don't know who you are. We think you were born yesterday. When it's them who were born yesterday. Do you know what I mean? In terms of how stupid they are. You know, obviously, it can be explained both ways. So, because obviously it's not specific enough to say which way around it is. It's the double-edged sword thing. So, yeah, so it's open to interpretation, basically. But yeah, so I've explained I am Enoch. Or, you know, fist knock. Yeah. Knuckle knock. Yeah. Knockers. Knock curse. Knock curse. Yeah. Knock curse. Yeah. I mean, isn't that interesting? Because, you know, Enochian, right? It's like saying no key an. You know, it's like saying no key. You know, kind of like, you know Pinocchio, the character Pinocchio. He's called, you know, no key o. You know, it's like he's got no keys or something, or he, you know, it's you know, which way is it? You got no keys, or you know, key. You know what I mean? No more. Yeah. Hmm. Um. Yeah. I mean, there's like an Italian like pasta, isn't there? Or it's like an Italian food, and it's called gnocchi. It's spelled like Gnochi or something. I don't know. It's something like that. Gnocchi. Um, yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff about Enoch in like he's talked about in Islam, Mormonism. Um, in Mormonism, it says here. It says here, among the Latter-day Saint movement, and particularly in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Enoch is viewed as having founded an exceptionally righteous city named Zion in the midst of an otherwise wicked world. Yeah, interesting. Obviously, Enoch is mentioned in the book of Hebrews, the epistle to the Hebrews. Yeah. So, hmm. Um, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, because the English language, because now, the word knock it sounds so similar to Enoch, and obviously it's a hand spell because the letter E is on the hand. And so, people are walking around as if they are Enoch. When they're not. They simply, people decided to use the English language in such a way that people behave like they're Enoch. They just go around knocking on doors, and they don't even know what they're doing. They have no idea. Quite often when I watch people who do tarot readings, when they shuffle the cards, they'll knock on the deck. It's part of their ritual. It's not something I do. Yeah, I don't normally bother. But hey, whatever. Yeah. So that's the interesting thing, right? Because obviously Cain had the mark put on him, and what did it say? It said, anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. And that was the mark put on Cain. So Cain had a son, called him Enoch, and even named Cain was then building a city, and he named it after his son Enoch. Yeah. And obviously Enoch was the seventh son from Adam. That was Seth's line. So and so the number 7 appears again. So obviously Cain had the mark over him. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. And then, not long after that is written, that's in chapter 4, and then going into chapter 5, it talks about Enoch, and he's the 7th from Adam. And Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was not. Then he was no more, because God took him away. And so people have speculated what that meant. So what does that mean? It seems to make sense that Enoch walked faithfully with God, and then he vanished because God took him to heaven. So, that seems to be, and that's how it is usually interpreted. Yeah. Anyway, ask and you shall receive. I am asked. It's an interesting thing, that, actually. What? Ask, isn't that the name of a restaurant? Oh yeah. Oh, I remember. Guy I used to call friend. I'm not friends with him anymore. A guy I knew from Brighton called Patrick. Yeah, he used to, and his old girlfriend, she was called Naringa. They used to work at an Italian restaurant called Ask. I ate there a few times. Ask and you shall receive. Knock and the door will open. Yeah, that guy's a fraud. Yeah. He's in a lot of trouble. And her. Yep. But him more. Yeah, I would say. Yep. Anyway. It's interesting though, isn't it? Cane, if someone gets caned, that's like, if I had like a big stick and I caned someone with it, that would leave a mark on them, wouldn't it? And so what, Cain had a mark put on him, right? And obviously, if you knock someone, that would, well, that's the thing, right? I mean, if I punch someone in the face, I'd be knocking them in the face. Maybe a knockout. That would leave a mark as well. Anyways, yeah. Oh yeah, and there was a guy, he was called Two-Ball Cain. Two-Ball Cain. Meat and two veggies. Yeah. Sounds like a load of bollocks, doesn't it? Two-Ball Cain. Yeah, so Cain said, "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth." On the earth. Yeah, wanderer on the earth. And whoever finds me will kill me. But the Lord said to him, "Not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over." Then the Lord put a mark on Cain, so that no one who found him would kill him. So this is the thing, right? Because, he had a mark put on him. He says, "Today you are driving me from the land. I will be hidden from your presence." Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. And so Then the Lord put a mark on Cain, so that no one who found him would kill him. And then what happened to Enoch? Well, that's the thing, right? Because the Enoch in Mormonism, Enoch is associated with a city called Zion. And the son of Cain, who was called Enoch as well, he had a city that was named after him called Enoch. Anyway. It's complicated magic, is what it is. But all I wanted to do was explain that I am Enoch. Yeah? Enoch. Or Enoch. Yeah? That is all.